Hello, this is David and welcome to Breath of Fire 3, a review and retrospective history. In the late 90s, RPG developers were finally able to get out from under Nintendo's thumb and subsequently jump ship to the PlayStation by the droves. This movement, spearheaded by Squaresoft in their release of Final Fantasy VII, forever changed the gaming landscape for the better. Seemingly overnight, RPGs became a much more mainstream genre, and there was a renaissance in niche franchises that previously would have never seen the light of day outside of Japan, such as Suikoden, Persona, and Wild Arms. While Final Fantasy VII was released in January of 1997, Breath of Fire 3 came out well over a year later in March of 1998, and by that point, Nintendo was pretty much left in the PlayStation's dust. In Japan, Breath of Fire 3 received mostly positive reviews upon release and would go on to sell approximately 425,000 copies. A lot of franchises that made the 32-bit jump to PlayStation showcased a dramatically different polygonal and frankly quite ugly look. But fortunately, Breath of Fire 3 was able to perform a precarious balancing act that few other games were able to accomplish. The designers still retained the look and feel of the previous games, but added enough radically different elements to keep the series from getting stale. It's quite possibly the most epic game of the five, with about 80 hours of play spanning a massive world rich with history, as well as nostalgia, as there are familiar themes and areas such as Windia, cat and bird people, and mole people. One of the sacrifices the designers made on the jump to the PlayStation was the world map. Instead of opting for limited regional maps with no random encounters and an almost point-and-click interface, the dungeons are more involved and puzzle-oriented than ever before, with each character having their own unique abilities to use during exploration. Graphically, the polygonal backgrounds are beautifully detailed, the camera's tight and can be moved when characters or objects are obscured, and the 2D sprites are simply gorgeous, with some of the most fluid animations on the PlayStation. The story takes place thousands of years after its predecessors, where the Dragon Clan is all but extinct. The only remnants of the clan are their fossils and Chrism, a mysterious crystal that forms when a dragon dies. One day, a group of miners stumble upon a large chunk of Chrism with a baby dragon inside. Breaking it free, they discover that the dragon is still alive, and the dragon, upset at this rude awakening, slaughters many of the miners until he's finally captured and sent off on a train. But he escapes, tumbling into the forest near the railway and passing out. The dragon, now having reverted back to its human form, another incarnation of Ryu, is saved and nurtured back to health by a pair of thieves, and their antics eventually get them involved in a sinister plot that will take Ryu and the player far into the future to attempt to discover the mystery of the Brood and how Miriah put these events into motion all those thousands of years ago. The story also takes a familiar nod from Dragon Quest V. Ryu grows up and matures as the plot continues, and you're able to rediscover characters and locales from your childhood upon reaching adulthood. The town-building side quest is greatly expanded upon by building up a fairy village. It's more involved, but more rewarding as well. In addition, the fishing game in Breath of Fire 3 is far improved, with dozens of different fish and baits to catch them with. The game drops the shaman system in favor of the master system, which allows any of your party members to apprentice under specific masters, which in turn allows them to learn new skills and influence their statistics. However, masters aren't the only ways to learn skills. Aside from learning skills naturally by leveling up, your characters can watch enemies and attempt to learn skills that they use during that round. This can be extremely tedious though. When a character learns a skill, they can then distribute them freely to any character during camping time. This allows for tons of customizability, as there's a horde of skills to learn and infinite ways to set up your characters. The more serious moments of the game are driven by Breath of Fire 3's much smaller but more developed cast of memorable characters. While previous Breath of Fire titles allowed groups of 4 characters to participate in combat, a staple since the NES days, Breath of Fire 3 restricts the party limit to only 3, a running theme in many PlayStation RPGs, but to compensate, it offers a new formation system that allows for characters to be arranged in certain patterns for statistical benefits, such as more magical power or more defensive power for certain characters. As a child, Ryu is not aware of his latent abilities until much later in the game, and the means by which he transforms is much more advanced than any of the previous or future games. Instead of just transforming into a dragon for a single round and using a powerful attack, Ryu can transform into a dragon and can maintain his dragon form, suffering a loss of MP each round until he no longer has enough to sustain the form, similar to Breath of Fire 2. But the genius of the transformation system is that in order to do this, you must find dragon genes frozen in Chrism crystals spread throughout the world. When you open up the dragon gene window in battle, you can choose up to 3 genes to splice, and with about 24 genes, it'll take quite a bit of experimentation to discover the effects of all the possible combinations. Nina, of course, returns in Breath of Fire 3, also in a new incarnation, and also as a child this time around. She's still a princess, but unlike prior Ninas who were brave, mature, and strong, this Nina is pampered, naive, and airheaded, which makes her easy prey to be manipulated by unsavory individuals. This gets her into a lot of trouble, but Ryu helps her out of many binds. Unfortunately, as a black mage in a game where black magic isn't all that good, Nina is a lot weaker both physically and mentally in this game, which makes her rather useless and annoying. Other characters that join you include Ray, a member of the cat-like Warren tribe and skilled thief, Tipo, an orphaned rogue and longtime friend of Ray's with no memory of his past, Momo, the daughter of a famous engineer and a superb healer, Gar, or Garland in the Japanese version, an experienced warrior and member of a group known as the Guardians who serve the goddess Miriah, and Peko, a plant-like creature who resembles an onion with limited speech and a connection with nature. Dees, although unplayable this time around, returns as a powerful sorceress who knows the secrets of the past. Miriah, an ancient goddess of destruction, serves as the central antagonist once more. Though her motives have changed, she is instead set on preserving the lives of humanity by ordering the deaths of the dragons. Reviews in North America and Europe range from good to average, and the game sold 230,000 copies in its first year. In February of 2006, Capcom announced a European port to the PSP. This port features a new title logo graphic and an expanded version of the fishing minigame. I personally do like Breath of Fire 3, but I feel like it's one of the weakest entries in the series. It lacks a certain charm that the others have, and it's very slow to start, not to mention that Nina is excruciatingly annoying and extraordinarily useless. It really bothers me that such an important character storyline-wise would be so awful gameplay-wise. Also, the loss of the traditional world map, reduction to 3 party members, and the slower than molasses story in the first half of the game really brings the title down for me. With all this being said though, it's still a very solid game and well worth your time if you're an RPG fan. It is one of the better games on the PlayStation, just not one of the better Breath of Fire games. This has been David. If you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.